And yo, the Sports Bag Bros podcast is back at you on a Thursday. Not just any Thursday. It's an NFL opening game, season starting Thursday. The defending champions are at home this time, the Kansas City Chiefs, because we know what their road trip was last year when they took it to the Super Bowl. It was supposed to be difficult, and it was, but they overcame, getting two in a row. Now they go for the trifecta this season, playing in Kansas City, and guess who they're going to play? The Baltimore Ravens, the team that Bias and I took last year to get to the Super Bowl. And, they didn't get there, but they got close. Lamar Jackson back on the set, but a new player is on the set as well. If you thought the running game of the Baltimore Ravens was a problem because of Lamar Jackson, it's a bigger problem with Lamar Jackson, and now they're bringing in Derrick Henry. What's good?
What's happening, man? I'm excited. NFL's back. You see, I got my hat, NFL hat. Last year I wasn't too excited. Being a Bears fan, didn't have much to look forward to. Different situation this year. Got a lot to look forward to as a Bears fan, but football overall, excited to see what the Chiefs have or what they look like now with their new additions to their offense. It's going to be scary. We'll see. Obviously, Ravens have big plans. They brought in Derrick Henry. Maybe they can control the ball, keep that dangerous Chiefs offense off the field. It's going to be should be a good game tonight.
And, and I think about it. We looked at last season and we saw how their season started, Kansas City, that is. And we talked about the drop passes and consistently drop passes. They got rid of Tony. Since then, they gotten rid of him. They do have players now that, including Kelsey. We know that he's going to always anchor that team and offensively, whether he's a tight end or you use him as a wideout because he's a disadvantage there as well. But they've brought in players as well. I mean, they brought in a rookie. Everybody wants to hear about the rookie. Xavier Worthy coming out of Texas, the fastest 40 time in combine history coming out of Texas, showed us a little bit of a flash in the preseason. Kind of looked like the goods, but they kind of gave him a little leg and pulled it back. They want to show the rest during the season.
Right. And I mentioned their additions. They also picked up Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
They got a lot of speed now. And you talk about Travis Kelce, he gets open anyway. Yep. Now, if you send those guys deep, the middle of the field is going to be even more open. He's going to have more room to operate. That's a scary thing for defensive coordinators around the league, man. You got to keep them off the field.
Yeah, but the problem is you still have Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, the best quarterback probably since he's been in the NFL.
No, but I mean control the ball and keep their offense on the field.
But you know what? Controlling the ball, you have to control the ball against them, and it would be great to be able to do that. Easier said than done. But then even if you control the ball, it can, unless you get a scenario like the Giants had back in 1990 when they played the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, where they were just grinding it out and it didn't matter. But when Buffalo got the ball, they just did so much with it so quickly, and they just went tick for tack until the Giants ended up needing Scott Norwood to miss the field goal to win the Super Bowl. I think there's a lot of that going on with anyone who tries to kill the clock with them, because you can grind it out. What happens if you end up with a field goal? Chances are they're probably going to get the touchdown. You know what I mean? It's like the first one who doesn't score a touchdown against them may be the losing team.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're going to have to score points no matter how much you control the ball, unless you somehow get 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions, win the turnover game. You're going to have to score points even if you control the ball, because when that offense gets on the field, they're going to put up some points.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, with Mahomes as being what he is, what is the pressure of being a team going for the three-peat? I mean, we've had teams like that before, and I think you kind of seen it in the past, and I think we talked a little bit off before we started up about teams who lose the Super Bowl or teams who go to the Super Bowl. Things aren't exactly the same the following year. And it's almost like last season, it's probably reasonable to say Kansas City kind of stumbled into a Super Bowl because they weren't expected to get there.
That's true. However, I think it was more of a lack of focus situation, like a Super Bowl hangover type deal. They were the defending champs, and they probably just couldn't wait until to wait until they got to the playoffs. Like they know the regular season doesn't mean much, and even home field advantage for them last year proved to not mean anything. They went on the road, they got their dubs, and they went to the Super Bowl, and now they have a chance for a three-peat. I haven't really looked into it or followed it. I don't know how much pressure they're putting on themselves to win that three-peat. I think it would probably be to their detriment because of course they want to win the Super Bowl and they want to be the first team to three-peat. But if you're starting out with that's your goal from week one during the long 17 game season,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Can you keep up that energy? Can you keep up that focus the entire time? I think it's better for them to kind of go through the motions, so to speak, until you get to week 11, week 12. All right, now we got to make that playoff push. I think that's kind of what they did last year. They lost some games they shouldn't have, and they didn't have the best record in the league. But again, it didn't matter.
But they automatically, though, I think, come into the season with the pressure of doing three-peat. I think anyone who's repeated before or any team that's repeated before goes into the other season or the next season automatically with that three-peat pressure on them, whether they want it or not. Fans think about it, they're kind of not wanting to think about
I'm
it.
talking about the pressure they put on themselves. Of course, people from the outside, but I'm saying the pressure they want it, but how much are they focused on it right now?
And last year, I don't think that was one of those seasons that was a distraction. They just had bad play between Travis Kelce getting injured, drop passes. I mean, just blowing game after game, and the inconsistency. They're one of these teams like years ago. You've had the Giants and you had the Steelers that end up getting hot at the right time, and they go into the playoffs, and they just end up, and you have the quarterback, the best quarterback in the NFL, and they were able to pull it off. It wasn't easy. They went to some real hard places to play, and they were able to pull it off, get themselves into the Super Bowl, and win the Super Bowl. So I think in that
But
last
you
year,
did
it was
notice they were in the playoffs. They were not the same team neither. They were more
absolutely different
focused.
team.
They were not making those same mistakes.
Nope.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I think what was that kid? I can't remember the kid's last name, Anthony. But anyway, he was the one dropping the pass as well. Making him inactive was a good thing to do. So that helped out a lot of the playoffs, on the opportunity going to the Super Bowl. But still, Baltimore, did they get better, or is this just another dimension?
I think they made themselves better as long as Henry is healthy. He's a workhorse. He's probably maybe not as dynamic as he used to be, but somebody very, very reliable. And he's one of those guys. You feed him the rock, he can wear down defenses. But he's also prone to injuries himself.
Yep.
And we've talked about this on past shows. I don't think they want to make him a workhorse too early in the season because they may not have him playoff time if they do.
Not with 17 games, especially. I think right now, the way the NFL is with 17 games, I don't think any running back is going to be that workhorse running back that we've known in the past. That one guy you can rely on. Like Emmitt Smith was the one person. Adrian Peterson, I think, was the latest that was that one person. There were, running backs that you just knew was the identity of the running game and the identity of the team and had success doing it. I don't think you have to do that. He can get his carries and bang you out, and they still have other running backs that could come in and kind of like spell him, like Justice Hill could kind of spell him. There aren't a lot of good backs that are going to, come in there and do what previous backs have been able to do for Baltimore. But I think that with Lamar Jackson still running like he is and still trying to prove he's a passer, making it even more of a threat, putting even that much more pressure on defenses because he may be that threat. I'm hearing people saying that he still hasn't proven anything as a passer. Proven anything as a passer because he didn't go to a Super Bowl? Because I think he's more of an established passer than he's ever been in his career now. He just still he can still run. And I think that the issue is last season, he doesn't have that dynamic speed he once had because of the NFL longevity and the injuries that come along with it and overall age, which is a natural occurrence. I don't think he's going to get any faster or too much faster, considering even he lost weight during the offseason, I guess, for that reason. But with he and Henry now in the backfield, pick your poison. Do you really pick your poison, or is it going to be pretty obvious that Henry's going to get the ball on first down, maybe second down, and third down is pretty pressurized for the defense because they could be that draw or they could be that handoff. Be that draw for the quarterback or the running back.
That remains to be seen. But you talk about the pick your poison. That's a pretty tough choice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've been working on that RPO game. We'll see if they have it down pat. But that's a very difficult combination to have to deal with. Defense is going to have to be very disciplined in their roles and not make mistakes, or they're going to get exploited. But who do you think? Do you think this is a must-win for the Ravens, considering they haven't had any success against the Chiefs?
You know what? I just think this is something for them to start off on a good note, especially a road game. And I don't think it takes the taste out of their mouths losing 17-10 last season. But I think this gives them whatever identity they're trying to establish this season. I guess it starts back because you have your running game, you have your quarterback who also runs, and seeing what this is going to ultimately turn out to be, because you don't have any, in my opinion, dynamic wide receivers. You have Nelson Aguilar, but he's a journeyman wide receiver. You have Zay Flowers, but do you really want to rely on just him? You saw how he played last season and how the mental part of it, when it mattered most, really wasn't his strong suit for now. Maybe he's matured since then. But I'm thinking that the pressure's not necessarily on them, but for them, I think it would be good for them to beat the Chiefs. It's a meaningless game, and I know the NFL does it because it was a huge game last season in the playoffs when it mattered. But going into the first game of the season, I'm thinking beating the Chiefs on the road, it wouldn't be the first time they lost on the road and still did something with it. At home and still done something with it, the Chiefs. But Baltimore, I think it does help a lot to win this first game on the road. Sets the pace and also lets you know what you can and can't do moving forward.
I kind of do think, it's obviously not a must win, but for their psyche, I think it is a must win because let's say they get blasted 42-10 and they go on the streak and they're 8-2, or, they finish 12-5 and they got to go to Kansas City. They're going to know, man, we couldn't beat them last year at home. They blasted us early this season, So I think for the Chiefs, like I mentioned earlier, and you alluded to, they weren't playing well last year, and it didn't make a difference. They got to the playoffs, they handled their business. If they lose tonight, as long as they get to the playoffs, they're going to be a dangerous team.
Yep.
For Kansas City tonight, even if they got blasted, I don't think they'll be like, oh, well, we had the ceremony, we had all the hoopla, the bells and whistles for this, opening night, and we were Super Bowl champs. So maybe we weren't focused. There's a lot of things they can say if they lose. But the Ravens, what can they say other than, man, the Chiefs got our number?
Kind of like Buffalo, same thing. The Buffalo can't get out of their own way either when it comes to the Chiefs. But I'm thinking that I just think that inherent pressure from trying to three-peat will be there. And, I think every team will give a little bit more of themselves when they do play the Chiefs to prevent that three-peat. Even the worst teams in the NFL want to play against someone if they're going to be that monkey wrench in their thigh, the thorn in their head, and to prevent them from going to that three-peat like previous teams that have won 2 in a row looking for the three-peat, whether in the NFL or any other sport. But I'm thinking that if I had to pick, believe it or not, I will go with Baltimore tonight, because I think you're talking about the running the ball and grinding it out and just making it boring offensively. Seriously, making it boring.
I'm going with the Ravens too, because of what I talked about, the hoopla, the ceremony, the bells and whistles, all of that.
Yeah. You know what? In basketball, we saw what the bells and whistles could do, even in a solemn way. When Kobe passed and the Lakers played, they just were emotionally drained and couldn't win the game. I don't think this is to that degree, but yeah, going through the ceremonies and everybody's lauding you for what you've already done, and hey, you have time to feel proud about what you've already done. And now the games begin. Now you have to defend your championship until it can't be defended anymore this season. And, you still have that pride as a championship organization, which Kansas City is. They just rejuvenated the winning part all these years later after being those winners in the past, starting with the Super Bowl.
Right.
But in any event, that's going to be that's a damn good game for them to start off the NFL to start the season with. Baltimore and Kansas City, a nice AFC clash, because tomorrow, not today, not a doubleheader, but tomorrow, you have Philadelphia playing the Green Bay Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Bro, I mean, an international game, no one has home field advantage. You're just playing football in front of people.
Well, you can say no one has the home field advantage, but Brazil's colors are green and yellow, so that kind of makes
you
it
want to go that far, yeah.
home game for the Packers. I don't know.
If nothing else, yeah, those colors travel. And that's the truth. Hey, but looking at that now, we're going into the now second year of starting, but fourth year overall for Jordan Love. New contract, new pressures, hella fight expectations because of the money and because of what happened last season. I mean, he proved last season that he could hang. It was good to go back to the blast from the past when quarterbacks used to have to sit down and wait their turn. He waited his turn under Aaron Rodgers for 2 seasons. Started off last season against Chicago. Didn't necessarily look good. Even in the win, you had to watch the game and not look at the stat sheet to see how well he played. But then by the 5th and 6th game, he started looking like real progress was made, that he learned those last 2 years and that he's learning on the job, not being a starter. Now going into his 4th season, 2nd season as a starter, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last season. Moving along in the playoffs, much more is expected from him. And what I believe is probably the toughest division in football this year, the NFC North.
That remains to be seen. And I don't know, I'm quite sure this question won't be answered, but we have to find out whether he'll succumb to the sophomore jinx or if maybe he's not as focused because he got his bag. I don't know enough about him to say one way or the other. I just know sometimes people get that bag and they're not the same player they were. Being a Bears fan, I hope he is a different player. I hope he sucks.
But you know what?
No, but I don't expect a big drop off. He's probably going to even be better.
Yeah, because going into the season, it gave us a chance last year to see, okay, is this the hype or is this the next man up? Or if he is the next man up, is he really going to be that good? Or does he have to be really good if the team around him is, good enough? You don't have to be a great quarterback. Just be solid. You might be able to move along and move some places. But he got good. He became close to great at some points. But I'll settle on being very good when the season was said and done. And I think it's talent, not circumstance, which has gotten him where he's gotten right now, in addition to getting that contract. So if the talent continues to flow, as Bill Parcells would say, it looks like this is just a continuation of last year, and you're expecting that improvement from the previous season. If that is the case, well, you can expect there's more where that came from, but with stronger circumstances around him within that NFC North. Minnesota being the cellar dwellers or expected cellar dwellers, and rightfully so, but with Chicago making the moves they've made and Green Bay having their quarterback the way they have their quarterback in Detroit. I mean, in true Detroit fashion, you can only regress because they've always done that in the past. But even if they have maintained it, it's still a tough division.
Yeah, it should be a very competitive division. I don't know if it'll be the best in football. The Ravens, Browns, and Bengals, that's a heck of a division also.
Yeah.
But we'll find out, obviously. I don't know. I don't know if we can put Minnesota to bed, if we can bury them. The season hasn't started, obviously, but they did lose JJ McCarthy, but who's their quarterback?
Sam Darnold.
There you go.
He's been around.
He's experienced.
Experience, exactly.
Yeah. So I wouldn't bury them just yet, but you never know. I mean, hopefully you're right, because if they're in the cellar, then that means the Bears aren't.
Hey, that's true for you, but that's true. But you know what? Minnesota, looking at Sam Darnold and seeing how he's played throughout his career, he's never been in anything special, but he also hasn't been horrible when given opportunity, unless he was with a horrible team, I think, with Carolina. I mean, who can help him?
It may be to their benefit to have an experienced quarterback instead of JJ McCarthy.
And he's been with the Jets, by the way, too, so whatever. But yeah, exactly, because I don't think they would have done any better with JJ McCarthy, because I'm still in the ship of not believing he should have been taken in the first round. But who the hell am I? I'm not a GM or part of the NFLs. It only takes one of 32 teams to believe that you're their guy, and the Minnesota Vikings believed it, and he's there. But then this meniscus that's taking a whole year to recover from, that's another little red flag for me. I don't know. I've never heard of a meniscus in the beginning of the season, in the preseason, that prevented you from playing in even more games, 17 games this time instead of 16. I haven't seen that. But anyways, he won't be playing. But if there is a somewhat of a remedy for one game only going into the season, playing the Giants, even in New York or Jersey, shouldn't be that big of a problem with Daniel Jones at the helm for the Giants. Not a very good quarterback. People are looking for Malik Neighbors to be the difference between Daniel Jones being a superstar quarterback or just Daniel Jones from Duke. I think it's Daniel Jones from Duke if he can't get the ball to Neighbors or anyone else.
You might want to hit that button, because I don't have a lot of faith in Daniel Jones either. I mean, he's more like a runner.
I tell you what, man, Daniel Jones, man, when was the last time a good quarterback did come out of Duke? Come on now, it just has not happened. And I think Dave Brown, another Duke quarterback the Giants took years ago, and now they take another Duke quarterback in Daniel Jones, and now he gets injured with the knee, comes back from it, doesn't do anything. I mean, I think he did play in the preseason, but didn't do anything, but you're not really expected to do much. But they believe that Malik Neighbors will be the reasons why he is going to have a better season or not. On paper, it should be that way, but what happens if Daniel Jones just isn't any damn good? When the owner, I believe the owner or the GM of the Giants was like, you know what, we're glad we paid him what we paid him based on what the market is right now. In other words, we would have gotten burned having to pay this guy 200 plus like two of the other guys. We didn't want to do that with him. We paid a lot less. We better be glad with it because he's worth a lot less. That's why.
Yeah, it could be maybe week 4, week 5 or so. We might start seeing some free Malik Neighbors signs in the Meadowlands.
Man, if there's ever been a play that you could be upset with, is Daniel Jones, especially if you're a wide receiver that may just be open. But the Giants also have to work in that offensive line, which seems to be a perpetual problem from year after year. So it may not just be a Daniel Jones issue, but coming off of those knee issues, you want an offensive line in front of you. And of course, Daniel Jones being in New York, Zach Wilson being in Denver now, not even starting, a rookie beat him out there. So it explains everything I thought about this guy. But the truck doesn't leave the Meadowlands, bro. Daniel Jones still here. The garbage truck has to back up. That's how bad Daniel Jones should be for the Giants this upcoming season. That's just what it is. Man, how about some other games coming up? I know the Monday night game, San Francisco playing the New York Jets. It would have been an excellent game last season. We saw how everything turned out for Aaron Rodgers, supposed to be making his first game appearance for the Jets, and saw how that ended with an Achilles injury and waiting all over again. Not that much hoopla this time around, but they do go out west. And I wonder why, because, he's a West Coast guy. He did play at Cal Berkeley, which is around San Francisco. And he's from California. I think he's around that area too, just like Tom Brady. So they're playing the 49ers, the Jets defense, no question. Offensively, though, we got to see how it works out with Aaron Rodgers. The name is still there. Missed a complete season. There's no way he could be what we remembered the last time he played, outside of the injury.
Right. Do the 49ers still have Chase Young?
Chase Young is gone. And Eric Armstead is here in Jacksonville, bro. That defense is done.
Yeah, I was trying to think who's the defensive end on the other side.
Bosa?
If the other side of Bosa.
Oh, okay. Nobody.
Nobody. Well, I mean, that should help out the Jets, because I mean, not that Young was tearing shit up last year anyway. I think he was a disappointment.
Well, he came in
But
mid-season, so I
I
mean,
know, but I mean, if you can rush the quarterback, you can rush the quarterback. Look at Montez Sweat; he was on the sorry ass Bears,
bro,
and he improved that team, or at least that defense, just with his pressure, the pressure he applied to the quarterback.
Montez is also a candidate for NFL MVP this year. If you go to Vegas and you look at the list, I mean, it's a fairly long list, but he made the
Montez
freaking
Sweat,
list. Yeah, he
wow,
made the
he's gonna
freaking
have
list.
to get at least 17, 18 sacks for that.
You know what? Someone believes he's doing something. By the way, we do have Javon Hargrave, but he's on the defensive tackle spot. Someone who I thought should have played a little better last year, but he didn't disappoint. He did play okay last season, and he should have done better with those defensive ends that he had. And with Eric Armstead right next to him in that defensive tackle spot, I thought they would have been so much better defensively. And they did it on occasion, but not to the degree I thought, because when I saw that those four guys were going to line up at the same time, all I had were thoughts of what the Philadelphia Eagles used to be when Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, and what's his name? Let me see, Clyde Simmons, Jerome Brown, Reggie White, and Michael Pittman. That's who's in the front four. But that's what I was thinking of, some domination. But that wasn't what happened. But
well, I was just thinking of Aaron Rodgers' escapability.
Who you say now?
No, I was thinking about Rodgers' escapability, potential escapability.
I want to hear about that.
That would be my concern. You know, how much pressure the 49ers are able to put on him. You know, I think that's something to look for. Can he still escape like he used to, move around in the pocket? You know, he was smart how he moved around. You know, he wouldn't scramble too often. He'd move around to find the lane to throw and find an open guy. We don't know if he can still do that. We don't know how his leg and Achilles are going to respond. So that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, because he's a lot like Tom Brady, those older guys who know how to play the position, and they don't have to have outstanding athleticism, even though at their best, I think the more athletic quarterback was Aaron Rodgers compared to Tom Brady, but they just knew how to move subtly in the pocket and just need that little move that they need to get out of the way to clear the path so they could throw their passes. And in Tom Brady's case, getting that freaking first down on that sneak or even the touchdown, he just was unstoppable, man. I mean, come on, he was like the tush push without a tush. He was just getting in by himself. But yeah, so I'm just looking at this. Yeah, I'm trying not to do it from a Jets fan standpoint, but I still think with the losses that had happened with the 49ers, I think the Jets can pull it off because defense does travel. If nothing else travels, defense typically travels. Now it's all about what's going to be so much different about that offense. It's got to be better than what happened last year. Anytime that Russell Wilson was there, even if he was there, we couldn't have won. Zach Wilson, anybody there, anybody outside of Zach Wilson there, things just did not do well last season. But that defense travels, is going out west. I'm looking for the Jets to win. Not a homer pick, but we'll see it on Monday night and see how it really goes down. And here in Jacksonville, we have the Jaguars taking on the Miami Dolphins, but they're going down to Miami to play them. So the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence now in his fourth season after having a pretty disappointing third season after doing really well in the second season. It's just a complete anomaly with him in terms of his improvement. But Eric Armstead on that defensive line now, the Jaguars look like they may be able to do something. Offensively, we know what Miami can do. They dropped the 70 points last year. They didn't lose pretty much anything from that offense to where they can't do that again to some team, unsuspecting or otherwise. They can drop the points. It's that defense that has the worries.
Yeah, I got the Dolphins. Dolphins, especially Tua, play much better in warm weather, warm climate. And Jacksonville, they have some answers, some questions to answer. Is Trevor Lawrence going to step up and be that franchise quarterback he's expected to be? Because he wasn't last year. And if the Jaguars are going to be successful, he's going to have to play better. But going down to Miami, I just don't see them being able to slow down that offense.
Yeah, I don't know. Defensively, the Jaguars, with Eric Armstead in the middle, that's if he could get the push, of course, you're looking for the outside guys. I know being here in Jacksonville and you're hearing from people who follow the Jaguars and they're telling you about Trayvon Walker, their first-round draft pick overall, a couple of years back, that he may finally have his finally have the game of his career to the season of his career to where it's going to be helpful to the Jaguars, and it should if anybody does any damn thing with a damn. But then, once I said again, Eric Armstead in the middle, and on the defensive end side, you have Josh Allen, who just coming off of his huge contract sign too. So he played for the bag, got the bag. Does he keep up the same tenacity, or does he do like a lot of players have done in the past? If we want to just go from a real blast from the past, it's like the Albert Hainsworth syndrome. You got that big money, and the couch you bought with that big money, you just put it on the field and laid on that while people just ran over you. That's what he had done. But the Jaguars this year, Trevor Lawrence, man, I watched him last year, but we talked about him probably more than we should have with the way he had been inconsistent, man. And for someone who's high profile and trying to go into a season where he wanted the bag, he didn't show anything that proved that he should have gotten the bag based off of last season. Thank God for what they saw in his second season. That's the reason why he had gotten the bag. They was like, you know what? We could look at this third season as a blip on the radar. The fourth season should be somewhat mixed between what happened last year and that year, but we should get progress out of it. It should be a net gain, a positive gain this season, the fourth season, but you need more than a net positive gain. And I think it also falls on Travis Etienne to be able to run well too. I think he had under 4 yards a carry last season. What running backs that are featured do that these days? You're usually getting 4 yards, close to 5 yards a carry now because everybody's running the spread and the running backs aren't used the way they used to be used, and the reason why they've been devalued. And he was getting stopped behind the line of scrimmage, not really breaking the big one, but he didn't fumble last season, which he did the season before, which ostensibly was his first because of the Achilles. But yeah, it still comes down to the multi-million-dollar man, $260 or $270+ million for Trevor Lawrence to deliver for the Jaguars. Shad Khan, the owner, doesn't just give that money away because he likes your hair. He doesn't think of Fabio, whoever the hell they think he is, but they want you to get results. And I don't think just getting to the playoffs or even deep in the playoffs is what Shad Khan is paying him for. They want a Super Bowl appearance and a Super Bowl win ultimately, like most teams, but some teams have to have reality in front of them. Some teams don't. I think it can be a reality for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I don't know about their reality. I just know Trevor Lawrence has to play much better than he did last year.
Absolutely. I mean, because, man, we were like waiting around for his 300-yard day. I think he had one, maybe. And we were trying to get him out of the damn.
We were expecting it to click, and it never started clicking. And before he knew it, they were getting passed by C.J. Stroud and the Texans.
And for real. And that's another problem they got to worry about now because C.J. Stroud going into his sophomore season. If you look at it from the standpoint of Trevor Lawrence doing really well in his sophomore season and then failing like he did last year in his junior season, if you call it that way. Well, C.J. Stroud, if he doesn't fail in his sophomore season, if he did a lot of what Trevor Lawrence did in his sophomore season, the Jaguars aren't going anywhere because the Texans at least should be that much better if under those circumstances. In fact, he's one of the guys that's MVP of the league this year, one of the top guys. I was pretty surprised about that. Even though he did what he did as a rookie, I was still pretty surprised to see him that high on the list of MVP candidates at this point in his career. I mean, he's shown and proved that he could be on there, but not that high in my opinion.
Well, that's Vegas, and that's all having to do with bets and money. And nobody, in my mind, is an MVP candidate because no games have been played. So, it's too. Of course, if you want to place bets and we're talking gambling, okay, then we can talk MVP candidates. But right now, there are no real MVP candidates.
Well, when people try to predict because they want to do it for fun, they're trying to kill time, they'll talk about the MVP candidate based on projections or trajectory.
We can make our picks. We can predict people. I'm just saying to say, here's a list of candidates based off what they did last year.
Pretty much that's kind of like college football.
That's weak to me because no games have been played.
Well, that's the way they're always going to do it, based on what happened last season. And and they do it in college more than even the NFL when you lose a whole bunch of players, but because of the name of your team, they're going to put your team on the list where it probably doesn't belong. And we saw that with Florida State. I'm wondering why they're number 10. I looked at what they got in the offseason at quarterback, and I was like, he hasn't been anything at Clemson, Oregon State, now he's something here. I just knew that wasn't going to work out. And now they're out altogether after starting off 0-2. And Georgia Tech is now in the top 25. Get out of here with that. You could probably can't even name a few guys on their team if you were in Atlanta. But yeah, back in the NFL, going back and think a little bit with Miami, Tua was expected to live up to expectations. But guess what? I think he's already done that. He's lived up to consistent expectations up until now once he got past the injury bug.
That's true. I would give him a lot of consideration.
And now offensively, Tyreek Hill, another season. He's still.
I thought you were going to say another incident. I'm like, what?
No. Man, I thought the offseason was over because that's his idea of an offseason. Incident. Okay, let's play football. If it's not so bad to where the commissioner gets involved. He still thinks he's the cheater. I think some people still like his reputation. Does he continue this season being the dynamic player, being what Tua needs? And, you also have Jalen Waddle out there. I mean, they have that freaking offense.
And A-Chain is back, right?
A-Chain is back. You come off a knee injury. That always bothers me when you come off of a knee injury, especially when you're that scat back that quick twitch, half-held scat back. And that's what he is. That the confidence he needs to have in making that sudden move and still relying on that knee or the repairment of that knee for him to to feel comfortable with it. Man, that always had bothered me. But man, last season that guy was something to watch. I mean, whether it was something to watch or something to have on your fantasy team, that's what he was. He was so dynamic, and if he has even just some of that, they're going to be just potent again offensively. Hopefully, they get to keep these wide receiver, these running backs healthy this season to where Raheem Mostert's still there. Mostert's still there, consistently getting. And there were times when he's averaging 6-7 yards a carry. So, but not like A-Chain. A-Chain was just off the chain last season. But it's going to still come down to defense. And we saw what Miami did last year when it mattered most or mattered at all. They didn't do anything offensively. And the offense, when it sputtered, there was no way out. And they lost those games.
Yeah. You know what? I just want to correct you on one thing.
Yeah.
You said we both picked the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. I picked the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, you did. Bengals.
Joe Burrow getting hurt. Joe Burrow threw a.k.a. Cody Rhodes. Got hurt early in the season. They never seem to find their mojo.
Nah, and then it looked like when he finally got something back, they took it away from him. Every time I get in, they pull me right back. I try to get out, they pull me right back like the Sopranos. They pull me back in. Yeah, I forgot. I thought we both picked, but we both did San Francisco, I believe, didn't we?
Yeah, we both picked the 49ers.
Both did San Francisco, so that was the duo pick. But this time around, man, I mean, there's so many teams playing. We already know that when it starts tomorrow, even though other teams start on a Friday and on a Sunday, that some of them shouldn't even have aspirations because they're not going to end up anywhere, kind of like Arizona. They shouldn't end up anywhere. You want them to do well. It's hard to watch that team. Who else?
Carolina.
Oh, yeah. See, teams that are kind of no-hopers, and if something did happen, a Cinderella story, it would be something ridiculously amazing if it happens to be either of those teams this season coming up. But, man, they still got to play. That's why you play the games. The Steelers, very interesting to see them play. Now with Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin joining forces, and Justin Fields in the background, maybe using him as a backup, maybe getting him out there where both guys are on the field at the same time, he and Russell Wilson. I'm taking advantage of some of the athleticism.
We'll see. Russell was kind of banged up during the preseason, so I don't know, how much work did he actually get in with the first team. And you want him to get into rhythm. I don't think if he's rolling along, I wouldn't take him out to run a wildcat or anything.
No, well, if you put him out there, you put Justin Fields, kind of flex him out a little bit, just give him something you can pass him out there in a bubble screen and let him just throw a pass, some gimmicky nonsense like that. The teams don't normally do that kind of thing, but to see that happen, I mean, I can see it happening because, well, if you have a player like that, you don't want to waste him. You're paying him, let him do something. Don't just wait.
I don't know. Tomlin's kind of a no-nonsense guy.
He is. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think he wants to create any type of controversy. Let's say they call a halfback pass. They line up Justin Fields at halfback and he throws a touchdown pass. Now people start asking questions.
Bro, come
Tomlin
on.
don't want that, man. He don't want that.
They're asking questions about a halfback option, bro.
I'm not even sure they want Justin Fields to be successful. They already said they're not going to re-sign him.
Yeah, but they also were pretty optimistic after they got a chance to see him in camp, and he did really well in the beginning, but then blew it when he was fumbling the ball and didn't take care of the ball during the preseason, but then he got it back together. Obviously not one of the cuts. He's going to be a backup who is serviceable that we know of so far. We still are not going to know how much better he's gotten from being with the Chicago Bears to being with Pittsburgh until Russell Wilson does go down, or unless there's some reason Tomlin puts him out there just to keep teams off balance for some reason.
I don't think he'll do that.
Well, we'll just have to wait to see that, though. But in any event, the Steelers have to play who they're playing. They're playing Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons, and Kirk Cousins is starting there, not Michael Penix, which is obvious a good move. I don't think Michael Penix is ready for the NFL, but Kirk Cousins is getting the
more I
bag.
think about it, the more I think about it, maybe like on a 4th and 1, instead of having Russell in there, you bring Justin, because now you got the defense thinking you want to throw them off. Maybe in a scenario like that, but other than that, I just don't see Tomlin doing it.
Yeah, I mean, he is that no-nonsense guy. He's not that gimmicky guy. And I know you think about the Pittsburgh organization, period, it's like a bunch of hardcore, hard-nosed coaches, all the names you would talk about when it comes down to Pittsburgh Steelers football, Bill Cowher, when you think about him. But then you think about, hey, he did have his Cordell Stewart once upon a time too, and his Antoine Randall L., and they did some things with them. They did some little freakish and flukish things with them and let them play the way they play. But I don't think that era is there. But I think if there is an opportunity to do that, if you have the talent on the field and there's a chance or an opportunity to throw someone off or confuse a team, why not just do it? And I don't think it's going to be to the point to where Fields did well enough to where you start questioning Russell Wilson. I just think it's just another piece of the puzzle to help them get into the end zone and get the advantage they need to win a game. That's it. But, yeah, come on, man. That's Atlanta. The fans hardly show up anyway. They started showing up with Mike Vick, and after that, they just kind of left. Marcus Mariota wasn't doing it for them, and anybody else who came along wasn't doing it for them.
Hey, I'm hearing people pick the Falcons to go to the playoffs. I don't see it, but I don't know.
Whew, you must have been in the Falcons shack. both of their fans said that.
We're 40 minutes in. Let's get to these predictions.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just go through a couple of these teams first because you also have, if you're talking about a nice matchup, if you want to talk young quarterbacks, you're still in the AFC South. Indianapolis is taking on the Houston Texans. Richardson coming back from his injury last year, CJ Stroud going into his second year, now as an MVP candidate according to Vegas. That's one of those games that's going to kind of bring people to the television to see what the young guy is doing, or young guys, plural, are going to do in that game. So, but anyway, yeah, predictions. Well, what are the predictions? Do you have an MVP for the league if we wanted to start off with an MVP?
So for MVP, oh, man, it's not going to be Lamar. It'd be too easy to say Mahomes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Tua. I'm going to go with Tua.
Well, this is a quarterback league. So a quarterback league, it probably would be easy to say a quarterback, and if so, a quarterback that's potent. Tua wouldn't be a bad choice. He has the offense to do it. I'm thinking I wasn't going to go to quarterback because it seems like chalk just going with the quarterback. But, man, what other option? You can't really pick running backs anymore because no one cares about them. You're the
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's going to get it done with 900 yards, and 3 yards of carry, and probably 15 touchdowns. He's going to be like Damian Thomason with a smaller yards per carry average.
And he can't be Christian McCaffrey because he's on the Madden cover. So
he's on the Madden cover, yeah.
Good luck to him this year.
All I can say is I'll be a pallbearer. That's about it. If you need a pallbearer, I'll be one. Just get 5 more guys. But let me see. MVP, man, defensive line is like the only other team, the only other position I think outside of quarterback to where you can have someone definitively in today's NFL that can do something. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a defensive back most times unless they're getting a whole bunch of interceptions. So a defensive end is probably second most glamorous position because wide receivers, after what happened with last year with Puka Nacua, he didn't get the rookie of the year. I know CJ Stroud played his ass off, but come on now. Look at those numbers and look at everything else that came with it. So I got to go with, I don't know, Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Defensive end. Yeah, it might not be a bad pick. So, yeah, so I'll just go with that. I mean, I don't think it's a bad pick.
Who do they have week 1? I think he has a good matchup. I can't remember who they're playing, but
hope it's the Panthers.
Who is it?
I hope it's the Panthers.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not Carolina. Whoever it is, they have two rookie. They're starting two rookie linemen.
They're playing Dallas, man. Still a good lineup. Still matchup. Still a good matchup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're starting. I hear they're starting two rookie linemen. I don't know if that's a good move against Myles Garrett.
You know what I'm saying, man? And Cleveland's at home for that game. So yeah. So Myles Garrett would be my guy, MVP in the NFL. You're going to take Tua, which I don't think is a bad idea either, man. Because that quarterback spot, man, if you're not going to get it as a defensive end, or the NFL is an offensive league led by quarterbacks, and you can come through or go through a few quarterbacks before you come up with that. So, rookie of the year.
But hold on, just as far as your pick, if Myles Garrett is to win it, the Browns have to win. Because I don't see him winning it with a 7-10 record. So that means your boy Deshaun Watson gonna be playing well.
You know what? And you know what? The irony and maybe even the politics behind it. If Cleveland plays well because of Deshaun Watson, is anybody giving this guy an award because of just the cloud over him? I mean, look what we're talking about here. We're talking about even ESPN covering that nonsense, and we know how their ideology is when it comes to anything. They slide this thing into it. Even though I think they have every right to do it, it is sports, and it was a topic for a long time. Still can be a topic right now what Deshaun Watson was involved in. But, if he had the stats and they just want somebody to come even close, and they'll be like, nah, he'll get it. We'll give it to somebody else. So I think Myles Garrett, even if Deshaun Watson is leading the team and the team is playing well because of it, and Myles Garrett has around 17, 18 sacks, he gets it. I think anyone who has anything that's a close call with Deshaun Watson is going to probably get it instead of Deshaun Watson getting it because of the way things turned out.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play anywhere near well enough to win the MVP.
I think he's shot.
I'm just saying,
he's a
I don't see anybody winning the MVP with their team having a losing record. And if Myles Garrett and the Browns expect to win, Deshaun Watson is going to have to play fairly well.
I mean, didn't they go places a couple of seasons ago with Joe freaking Flacco? Come on. I mean, Deshaun Watson isn't anything special. I just don't think he is. I think at one point he was heading towards that way, but I think he did hit somewhat of a ceiling. I think other people don't want to look at it and say Deshaun Watson wasn't what we thought he was. And this is, without any of the outside things, nonsense or whatever it is going on, just looking at him as a player, I wasn't getting that vibe after a while that, okay, this is a guy that's heading towards stardom or even superstardom. I think he was a likable guy before all of the off the field issues, and people gave him more credit for that than they would give him for his play. And then when the cloud came and all of the accusations came, then the play went out the window. He didn't play at all. And then he came back, looked terrible while he came back. I just think he'll be a shadow of what he was supposed to have been, which wasn't anything special, but pretty good.
We'll see.
So now,
again, I don't expect him to play to MVP type level, but he did have talent, and
he had talent. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if another year back, if he takes a step up.
So now when we talk about rookie of the year, so many of these rookies. I know people are just jumping on this Xavier Worthy deal because he has the perfect quarterback to just get it to him. I'm not going with him, though.
You want me to go first?
Oh, yeah, you can go first with that.
Go Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. You know what? After what happened, I think we talked about it so many times how what CJ Stroud did last season is probably why all these quarterbacks just went as early as they did in this past draft, including J.J. McCarthy. In fact, specifically J.J. McCarthy. And even Bo Nix to that degree. I think all of these quarterbacks who went so early in the draft is because of the success C.J. Stroud had last season in his rookie year, second pick overall. Bryce Young is not even into the conversation. And this wasn't even expected because the Houston Texans was so bad. You just thought that he was just going to get battered, kind of beaten up like David Carr did when he came, pretty much ruined his career. But then this guy comes in and just lights it up, easily winning the Rookie of the Year. It shouldn't have been so easy, but winning the Rookie of the Year last year. But so I can see Caleb and what the Chicago Bears have done for him. Those
I'm going with Caleb because I expect the Bears to win at least 10 games this year, and that means they're in the playoff hunt. I don't know if that's enough to win the division, but with those weapons he has, I don't know how he can't play well. They addressed the offensive line. They should be able to keep him upright. And, like, again, he's got weapons. They have a good running back room. DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert can run the rock. So if he throws for 4,000 yards and becomes the first Bears quarterback to ever do it, I mean, that how can you not give him Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I can see that as a possibility, a huge possibility. And being the number one pick overall, everything you do, especially if it's positive, is going to get a lot more play than it probably should get. And you're in Chicago, one of the legendary cities of the NFL, so that's going to help as well. Being in New York, being in Chicago, being in Philly, being in Washington, even kind of sort of up in New England, is going to give you more buzz, or even in Dallas is going to give you more buzz than you probably deserve, whatever little bit you do. But if he does a lot, well, it's even more a reward that comes from that. My guy is going to be looking at what happened last season with Puka Nacua, playing for the Rams and breaking all these records, even though it was 17 games and people were quick to say that and trying to take away what he had gotten. A late round pick, I believe he went to BYU. No one expected BYU, or was it Utah State? But either way, no one expected him to play the way he had played. I'm going to go with a guy just as well, and this is going to be a guy who's played very well in college, showed the leadership, has the speed, and he's with the right team, with the right quarterback, with now a new coach, and that's going to be Ladd McConkey from the Georgia Bulldogs, last year's second-round draft pick for the Chargers, now LA Chargers. I think that he could be that piece that they need, especially a growing piece. Everyone loves him in the building. He didn't get many opportunities in the summer. I don't know for what reason, maybe injury or whatever, but I've seen enough of him throughout being at Georgia. And one of the reasons why I thought in the NFL it may work out for him, because he has Justin Herbert and now Jim Harbaugh, who knows how to get the ball to him and an offensive mind, is because he was the one who was a pain in the butt as a 3-star wide receiver who wanted to go to Tennessee, ended up at Georgia, bust his butt as a scout team wide receiver, so he did not have anything handed to him, was a pain in the butt on the scout team, a pain in the butt to the guys from the 2022 season, the season that put 15 players into the NFL draft and 5 of those on the defense. He ran against those guys and had success, whooped them up, and took whoopings from them. That showed his toughness and winning 2 consecutive national championships, an opportunity at a third last season, now a second-round draft pick. Incidentally, the earliest draft pick of all places, Georgia, come on, with all that talent, the earliest draft pick since A.J. Green was a first-round draft pick. He went in the second. So, yeah, that's going to be my guy, Ladd McConkey.
Not a bad pick.
I hope he doesn't get injured. I hope not. But looking at what Nacua did last season, I'm thinking that Ladd does a lot of the same. He's even faster, has even more. I can't say better hands because both of them have excellent hands. But
the only thing I'd say to that is playing on the West Coast. There's always an East Coast bias.
Mm-hmm.
How well are the Chargers going to play? Does he become Herbert's favorite target? We'll see. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I just think there might be a couple of things working against him.
He's a legit 4-4 guy. He knows how to get open. He's a tough guy. We've seen him tough in college, and that can translate to the pros as well. And, they talk about him. I know they talk about all their rookies and give them a lot more credit than they probably even deserve. But I think in his case, I've seen enough of him to know that these stories they're talking about of him being studious and being smart in the field and knowing what to do and being fast in his work ethic, I know it all has to be true. And I'm thinking last year, I think they were a faction of people who thought that Nacua should have won the Rookie of the Year, even though C.J. Stroud did play the way he had played. Pakua just did everything. Nakua did everything. I mean, he did everything except for win that award. So I'm thinking, okay, they remember that from last year. So if something does happen this year and there's a wide receiver still showing out like that, doing things special, I think they will go with that by default this year. You know what? We didn't give it to them last year because we have a CJ Stroud that came out and did well. We got to give it, we can't give it to a receiver this year unless Caleb Williams has a lot of what just happened with CJ Stroud. I can see him pulling it off if he's getting the production. It can't be intermittent. You have to become the main guy, just like Nakua did.
Yeah, if the Bears win 10 and Caleb throws for 4,000, your boy don't have a shot.
No, he doesn't have a shot. If a quarterback can outshine him at any point, any of these rookie quarterbacks, I think Bo Nix may have even the best opportunity because he's in Denver and he does have Sean Payton, that offensive mind that he could groom from the very beginning, not a finished product. He'll get him to that point. So, but outside of that, I'm looking at the receiver spot. Lamb McConkey's the guy. So now AFC and NFC champs.
It's hard to go against the Chiefs, but it's never been done. So I'm not going with the Chiefs. I don't think the Ravens will be the team to do it. I don't know. Call me crazy. I went with the Bengals last year. I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think they're going to have a bounce back year. They had a rough season last year, dealing with Stephon Diggs in the preseason. They don't have all that nonsense going on this year. So
nope.
Josh Allen, people are expecting big things from him based off his playoff performance. Left too much time against KC and Mahomes.
Yeah.
Or whoever would think 13 seconds was too much. But I think the Bills have a bounce back year and they find a way to get it done.
Yeah, it could have been the same pick last year. It could have been the same pick last year. You'd been close to getting it right. So this time I don't want to go chalk and just say, Kansas City, because that would be chalk. I think even Kansas City fans picking Kansas City for a third time would be chalk. But, man, speaking of chalk, man, I don't want to go back to the Baltimore Ravens, man, but they keep sucking me in. Come on now. The Ravens are sucking me in. I'm thinking about Lamar Jackson losing weight. I'm thinking about Lamar Jackson being a little bit faster because I looked at that look on his face when he was trying to get away and couldn't do it last season.
You never know. They could have more motivation than any other team out there.
And that's why I got to go with him. I'm going with Baltimore again. It's a sucker move, but I'm a sucker. I'm taking him. I'm going with Baltimore. I want to see them in the Super Bowl. Derrick Henry has to be a difference maker, but I think Lamar Jackson even more does the quarterback position like a quarterback this time around. Doesn't necessarily have to run, but he does it naturally. But he also is cognizant and deliberately tries to pass because he still wants to be looked at as a passing quarterback. I'll take him and Baltimore going into the Super Bowl. And now the NFC side, man, it can't be San Francisco, so don't worry about that chalk. We threw that away. So
right, can't be San Francisco. It's not going to be Dallas. I hate to say it, man. I hate to say it. I'm not going to pick the Bears. I'm not. I do not believe they're Super Bowl contenders. But a 10-win season is a good step up, and that'll send them on their way for future seasons. I don't believe in Philly. I don't. I know some people are picking Philly. I don't believe in Philly. So, therefore, I got to go with them fucking ugly-ass green and yellow uniform.
Bro, I was about to say the same, man. When you start saying that, I was like, damn, you're going to take my damn team. I want to slide away. But, bro, I saw Jordan Love. I saw the difference between that first game when I looked at the stats, and I was like, those stats, you got to watch the game because that was an ugly game that he had. He just happened to win the game. But then I saw him again, I think week 5 or week 6, and I saw the difference. I was like, yo, this guy's legit. But I wonder if this is a one-off. But then more and more, you started seeing it. And then the playoffs, when everyone was watching, you saw him right before your freaking eyes. And now you're going into your second season as a starter. Man, they did it the right way. They had him sit on the bench and sit behind the quarterbacks the way they used to do. The way they did it with Steve Young behind Joe Montana. The way it used to do. They used to do it and just hand the baton over to the next guy if you had a dynasty. Now, I mean, there's no dynasty there, but it's still Green Bay football. And, yeah, I think Green Bay will end up there. Jordan Love has to stay healthy, of course, but this is football. You don't know who the hell is going to be healthy. His offensive line could freaking flop and he'll get jacked up because of that. But, yeah, Green Bay. So Green Bay versus the Baltimore Ravens is looking like that to me so far. You're talking about the Green Bay versus the Buffalo Bills. Another game between cold weather teams that may end up in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, there you have it. Those are our picks for the 2024 season, as today is the first day of the NFL season. Thursday Night Football opening up in Kansas City. The defending champs, two-time champs, trying to go for the trifecta this season, and they'll have a hard order coming in from Baltimore. Angry? Yeah. Something to prove? Definitely. Doesn't matter? Not much to Kansas City, but much more to Baltimore. That's why I think we took Baltimore. So that's what it's going to be for the day. He's Bias, I'm Trav, and the Sports Bag Bros podcast will be back at you after this weekend of college football and the NFL. So until Monday, deuces.
Beat Colorado.